What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of TripleKO, and fighting game news is kind of crazy. We are started in the beginning of 2023. 1 month has passed, and we are now in February. And one thing has just finished: the Tekken World Tour Finals of 2022 just finished, and they talked about lots of things. Obviously, there's a new Tekken, lots of heat, aggression, very aggressive.
Jin is currently in heat.
Jin is currently heat. Lots of characters are in heat. They turn white. They got little chains on them. But there was a big trailer, right? A big trailer, a big gameplay overview of Tekken 8, 35 minutes worth. But before that, how are you doing today, Matt McMuscles and Mr. Maximilian Dood?
What?
I'm in heat. I'm in heat personally.
Yes. I'm on the cusp. I'm on the bridge of being in heat.
Always on
Nice.
the edge.
On the edge of heat.
Always on the edge.
That's going to be the greatest commentator rig when it comes into Tekken 8 commentary. Oh, man, these guys are really in heat now. Let's go, boys.
This is really heating up. You can make it less lewd as well, but you can also go full lewd.
You have to go full send on that shit. They put it in there. You have to accept it.
I feel like Tekken's more of kind of an older audience and kind of vibe compared to Capcom, especially if Harada's don't ask me for shit. Even at the point of the Tekken World Tour Finals, they trolled everybody, say, "All right, that's it, blah blah blah, we're out," and then the crowd started booing, right?
Throwing tomatoes.
Boo. Right, they're throwing the can. The Guile meme where he's hands up in the ring and everyone's just throwing
That's
stuff like
Harada,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Harada, right? And then Harada comes back out and it says, "Are you booing? Who's booing?"
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. He just started talking shit, right?
Smithers, are they
back.
booing me?
Right?
So, Matt, did you get to see this live or no?
Live, no, but at that section of the presentation, I was scrubbing around, and I'm like, why are they walking back and walking forward? What do they do? Oh, okay. So then I put it there, and I saw the kind of troll, which is funny.
I'm a little critical of the order of which information was presented, because 35 minutes that goes into a technical demonstration for the hardcore audience, I think is great and does answer a lot of questions that everybody had about what the hell's going on. Are you removing sidestepping, all this goofy stuff that people was assuming?
Yep.
However, my big criticism of the TWT finals was that right before top 8 begins, Harada and Mike Murray come out. And you're assuming, oh, here comes the Tekken 8 stuff. And, we're right. But they don't start with that. They start by announcing, here comes another full year of Tekken 7 esports, and the TWT 2023 has been announced. And the entire audience is like, okay, so we're going to be continuing to play Tekken 7 for at least another year. And that was the realization. And then they leave. And it's like, oh, God. And then they thank God they came back and actually had something. But there was to me, the order of operations was completely befuddled, right? They should have absolutely had waited to the end of top 8 to actually show all this stuff. And then after it, announced that we're going to be doing a Tekken 7 World Tour for 2023, leading people to conclusions of oh, well, I guess Tekken 8 ain't coming out for a while, because the first information we got was, don't get excited about Tekken 8. That was the first practical announcement they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it you usually lead up with the not that mind-blowing news, and then you lead up to the bigger thing? Or did they really make it seem like this is it? So everyone was fall into despair. There was too much of a delay in between the news segments. Yes. Is what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that we've been looking at Tekken 8 for 6+ months now. And everybody's kind of expecting it to be maybe it's going to be the competitor to Street Fighter this year or something. That's what the average audience is assuming. And then the information we first get is that no, Tekken 7 is actually going for a full year. It's going to be either later than that or much later than that. And that's the ultimate realization. Was it felt like everybody's the audience, everyone, the wind was completely taken out of their sails for a moment while they were watching this 35-minute presentation, but ultimately realizing, we're looking at shit that ain't going to be out for a long time, bro.
Yeah, I think there's that. And then also, the Tekken World Tour itself, it was 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Which probably should have been 3 days. I don't know what time you started.
They went like
streaming,
16
Max.
hours.
Yeah, but like I went to sleep around like 2 a.m. and they just went live, right? I wake up, it's like 9:30 a.m. and stuff like that, and I'm like, roll out of bed. I just turn it on, and luckily, I made it just in top 8, right? And then they're about to announce all this stuff, but I'm like, wait, they've been on since like late last night, so everyone's tired. The players are tired. Like the energy of the crowd can't be as crazy compared to like the beginning of the day. They've been sitting there for forever, right? So that's probably another reason why like maybe the crowd chants it also wasn't like as great compared to maybe what we would be used to.
People were getting a little grumpy, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah,
it's like
grumpy.
when you go to
they need a Snickers. They need a Snickers from everybody.
It's like when you go to modern wrestling events and they're like 15 hours long, and people are like done by the end of it. They're just so tired. So yeah, that has to be a contributing factor to the tomatoes that were thrown at Harada. That there actually wasn't, but I just like Harada like blocking them and like parrying the tomatoes. And he's like, "No, I got good news. Just give me usually don't ask me for shit, but you can ask me for a little shit here. It's fine,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people probably are a little upset about Tekken 7 being back for another year, possibly because it's like the trend of Tekken 7 is like DLC characters run this game.
Sure.
Right. As you can see, like people are tired of like kind of characters with meter. They're tired of these guest characters that being so overpowered most of the time, and that was kind of the story I would say for the whole Tekken World Tour.
Is that not the case with the majority of fighting games for the past like decade though? Right? DLC characters sort of just run the gamut. All the developers like feel themselves a little bit and are like, oh, this is what we can get away with. Okay, it's working. What can we push? And then it almost always happens. It feels like you get some really bad DLC character, then you get some like literal god tier characters.
Yeah, I guess for Tekken 7's case, Akuma has been nerfed for like 5 years straight.
Yes. He's been nothing but toned down. Yeah.
Yeah,
and he's still the best.
And he's still the best, and he just won, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's like another issue. People are just tired of that. But I think it was a great story. Obviously, the story was like kind of Korea and Pakistan, and it was just beautiful to see kind of like the dominant like
Japan also doing super good too.
Yeah, right. The dominant country that you normally would see is Korea. There's some like kind of like little cracks in that Tekken window, right? Where like countries from Japan, even from Italy, Gerlandar, he eliminated one of the best players in Japan in the tournament, right? And he got 4th place. That was amazing. So the fact that Tekken became like an officially like world game and not just like manhandled by everybody from Korea, that's like another like good ecosystem for the competitive scene.
Yeah, and that's honestly why Tekken has been so big in the esports realm and viewership and everything for a while now. It's truly a worldwide game, and it isn't dominated by one specific area anymore, which is fascinating. The thing I have to ask... Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, but another factor that is I find Tekken more than like a lot of other series, like, maybe more than Street Fighter nowadays, is like they really go for international picks for the actual fighters. Like here's a Polish fighter, and I was like, no way, no, that's so cool. So I just find that there's an appeal worldwide when your cast is truly worldwide versus 80% of Street Fighter characters being from US or Japan, so.
I remember having a conversation with Harada around E3. The E3 Tekken 7 was being shown at, so it was like 2016. And I was asking him sort of like the performance of the game, because obviously they were trying to pick up the paces from Tekken Tag 2, and weirdly enough, like a very large majority of sales for Tekken isn't just like US or Japan or like Asia region. It's actually the UK. Like the UK has a giant draw, more than most fighting games, is where Tekken usually shows up in terms of sales. So yeah, it does. It manages a pull in places that you normally wouldn't expect there to be that big of a pull.
Steve Fox putting in the work to appeal to the UK.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because even from like old school like competitive FGC, the like Europe, the UK region, like countries in Europe, they always come down to Evo for the 3D games and just wash everybody. Like, so like a lot of times, like France like usually wins all the Soul Calibur games. Ryan Hart is like a multi Evo champion for all the Tekken games. What's up, everybody? Today's episode is sponsored by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or computer. I think the best part about it is February. It is that time of the month. It is Valentine's Day season, and because we are all in relationships, happily in relationships, we need to spend money to our loved ones
to keep them,
to keep them, right? So we want to buy them the world, and the best thing that we also want to love is also save money. How do we save money this weekend, boys? How did we save money?
Flowers are a big thing in my household. Crime Tina enjoys the flowers very much. So I was doing some online searches because all the local places that have flowers, like it's dead and it's winter around here. So they got
you
nothing.
have to import them.
I have to import them from a few cities away and stuff. So I was doing some Google searches, found some places that where honey was applicable. So it did save me like a good little amount of money. They are hopefully by the time this podcast airs, they're hopefully on their way and they'll hopefully arrive right on time on Valentine's Day. So I'm nervous / excited about that, but I did save the money. So I guess that's the important part for this portion of the podcast.
and do not forget, guys, Honey just doesn't work on desktops. It also works on your iPhone too. Just activate on Safari on your phone and save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting the show. Get PayPal Honey for free at joinhoney.com/TKO. That's joinhoney.com/TKO.
The one thing I got to ask you guys, and this is a serious question, how mechanically dense do you like your Tekkens to be?
As dense and as hot as possible, I think. No.
Oh man.
I got a little lost.
I wanted to be very
aggressive. Yeah, very aggressive. Aggressively dense, I think.
So there was already a pretty vocal amount of people when it came to Tekken 7 that were unhappy with the mechanical disruptors, the rage drives, as well as the rage arts that Tekken 7 presents. And yeah, they're disruptors, right? Tekken is largely known as a very, like, if you want to talk about what is the ultimate grounded footsie fighting game, I don't really think it's Street Fighter, man. I think it's like Street Fighter has a big disruptors throughout the rest of its series with focus attack and now drive impact and all this stuff. It's kind of Tekken, and Tekken, as it's gone on these years, has had increasingly more and more disruptors. Like you have the ultimate disruptive Tekken Tag 2, wow, everything's disruptive. And now you got like Tekken 7, which has got a few things, right, that sort of throw a wrench into the mix. And then you got Tekken 8, which has an absolute metric shit ton of things you can do with meters available and timings, and now characters have V triggers and shit. I'm like, oh my god, they went so ham on Tekken's core systems, in my opinion.
It reminded me a lot of Street Fighter 5.
It's a 5?
Right.
Like V trigger.
It reminded me a lot, like, yeah. No, like kind of like V trigger,
okay, yeah.
And also like the chip damage, right? The chip damage with the gray life and everything. It just reminded me of like Street Fighter 5, where it's like, because Street Fighter 5, when you get V trigger, it's aggressive. Like it's super aggressive. That's the comeback factor, and that's kind of what the Tekken 8 heat system reminds me of, especially when you go into the heat mode. Regardless, like
chip damage on block, all this stuff.
Yeah, and there's like 50 million terms with heat, like heat engager, heat smasher,
heat rusher or something.
Yeah, heat rush and like heat dash. Like there's a bunch of heat
drive,
terms, right?
It sounds like drive, though. You know,
it's the drive,
yeah, right.
Because we were saying in the Missteps video how we like Tekken has fundamentally been the same since Tekken 5. And we were saying before this, I think by that time we knew about that they're implementing a heat system, but now we have all the nitty gritties on it. And this is kind of what they probably needed to do, right? Like just do a massive overhaul to make people like this is a new Tekken. This isn't just Tekken 7.5. And I think like now's the time, especially with the graphical overhaul, which
which is in the middle of the road right now.
What do you mean?
It's definitely looks different than Tekken 7, but if you're not looking at the right screenshots or the right video format, it won't look that much different, you know?
Yeah, okay.
And that's the differential, the differentiator here is that they need to make Tekken 8 look different than Tekken 7. And if you do all this crazy, wacky heat shit that they are showing, yeah, it does look significantly different. Like, I personally do not want the same exact B&Bs for every character to be the same thing they've been since Tekken 6, you know? And yeah, they are bringing back like the bound system instead of the screw system. It looks like, but the screw system is still there if you use certain heat moves. At least that's what it looks like. So maybe you get these big, crazy long combo extensions that include the wall and stuff like that. It could get absolutely wild. I think the one example we did see of it might have been Paul, essentially ejecting all of his heat and his rage. I'm sorry, no rage drive anymore. Rage drive has been stuck into heat now. Yeah. So it was his rage art, and rage art. All of that put together was like 75%. Right? It was huge.
Yeah,
combo.
I saw that. I think, Max, in your video, you're like, the damage, though. It did a little damage. Yeah. A little bit.
Does.
Yeah.
That's like a Kuma damage.
It does. I mean, I guess Paul's known to kind of like hit that hard.
That's true.
Yeah. So I guess like before, like his Death Fist usually would take like 50% plus. But looking from the video, it's like they lowered the damage for the Death Fist, but they gave it more follow-up options.
More utility.
Like the Death Fist. Yeah, right. Death Fist goes into the heat dash or whatever, and then he gets a free, literally jumping like a launch combo from there because the character is stunned at that point, right? And then even the charge up Death Fist, it does chip damage as well too. So there's a lot of new properties, right? They did say that frame data does not change when you're in heat mode and pressing like specific normals, but the properties do change in terms of like this might be launchable now, like stuff like
they
that.
Might get counter hit states or something, you know?
Yeah, so stuff like that becomes a huge knowledge check. Like the knowledge check is going to be so crazy in Tekken 8, and like I said, it's a very aggressive game. So trying to think that fast while putting the numbers in your head is going to be like insane.
So I kind of agree with where the devs are going. And they were describing the heat system where it like amplifies like a large chunk of moves, like a good like 10 moves, right? That are now really good. They call these moves like feature moves for characters, the ones that they want you to use. And the reason that exists is because these bitch ass characters got like 80 to 150 to potentially 200 moves. So they know that's a problem. Like, and they straight acknowledge it during the presentation that the heat system is there to sort of alleviate that, where the heat system is going to have these specific moves that are the ones we want you to be using. But does it mean we're taking away the other ones? They're not Street Fighter 5ing it in that situation and sort of like just limiting what characters can do and putting them in specific time usage. No, you can still do all that shit. It's just that now there's a mechanic directly focused around the primary moves, which is literally how I learned every character when they came out in Tekken 7. I was like, hey, who's got that document online, which is like, what are the top 15 moves I should be using, and ignore everything else for the first 2 days. And I'm like, all right, just give me that.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it helps like on a casual perspective when someone picks up a fighting game for the first time, or Tekken for like, you know, I haven't played it since Tekken 3 or 5 or something. They would say, you know, a game that kind of like you could focus on these core cool looking moves because they get enhanced, and you can like, you know, touch or go with the rest. So you're giving that option, that highlight on them, which I think for 3D fighters helps. Like when I watch casual people play, when I have like a brother-in-law come and play, like that's when buttons get mashed.
Oh yeah,
because everyone knows that there's everyone on a casual level knows there's a million moves. Yeah. For a 3D fighter versus, you know, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat where there's less. So I think that's a smart change on the casual level as well.
Because even in like a mid level of Tekken, you're not blocking everything, bro. You don't know what this character does. Yeah, you don't know what every character. You do. The best bet that you have is that you're going to get Oki and then get your damage in, and then do as much as you possibly can, or win before they do weird shit to you. Like that's like really the strategy. Even at the absolute premium highest level of competition, there was a Hwoarang in top 8, and people were not blocking his strings. Like they didn't know when they were going to stop. They didn't know if there was 2 lows here or the mid. Like they were still getting hit by them at the highest level competition because Hwoarang has a billion strings that are high, mid, low, low, mid, low, low, mid, high, mid, low. Like, and people are like, what the fuck? Like, who knows where to block this shit?
It might as well be unblockable at that point.
Exactly.
Right? That's what it comes to. And he did really good. It's crazy that the only person that knew how to stop him was actually somebody that he fought a lot, Zhang Ding.
Yep.
Like they're both from Korea.
And he literally beat him by blocking the string and then punishing the last hit. I was like, wow, he's seen it before. Okay.
He's like, yeah, we play a lot or something, right? So the commentators even talked about it, how like, yeah, they had a long set on like previous live streams and everything like that. So you can kind of tell that they were ready for against each other, right? But what about the new control scheme? You know how they did talk about a simplified control scheme, kind of like how Street Fighter 6 has a modern control mode.
It seems even more aggressive though, right?
It's always aggressive.
It's always aggressive, yeah.
What are the details on this? I saw that headline, but I didn't quite look into it yet.
So what appeared to me on my end is the same functionality as Tekken 7. You know when you go through story mode in Tekken 7 and you can press like an L button and it brings up a list of moves that are all the face buttons, and you can essentially give yourself like true electrics, like, you know, misstep or whatever, like anything that the character can do, you can assign it there. So of course everyone puts electrics on there and you're just electricking the shit out of everybody. What the devs were explaining is something kind of similar, where you can attach combos, like actual full combos, as well as individual attacks to that list. And apparently in Tekken 7, the only ones that you can do that are like the hard moves, like the true electrics, like the just frame stuff, are only working in story mode. So the difference now is that you can use that stuff online, but you're going to get the basic one. In Tekken 8, there seems to be more functionality to it. So we're assuming that obviously you're not going to let everybody do, you know, Kazuya True Electrics, you know, and get crazy damage. But there is going to be more because they directly said it will be functioning in player matches and ranked matches and all that stuff. It's there.
Yeah, it's there. And then they even said you could even bring up the little like cheat sheet during your matches.
Yes.
So like imagine like you're just playing and then it just shows up on the bottom left of the side screen. It's like, oh, the square does this, triangle does this, X does this, O does
they
this.
They are hyper aware that Tekken is a very difficult to learn fighting game in total because of the legacy skill involved.
I wonder if
it was surprising.
Was that in Tekken Tag 2 on the Wii U? Like
I think it was. Screen you can bring up
like a cheat sheet. Ah, nice.
You need that sometimes, man. Yeah. Like if I could just put 15 moves and just look down, haven't used that in a while. Let's try that.
That's true.
They do reference a lot of like old Tekkens. Like we're kind of bringing this back from like an old Tekken and stuff. Like they refer Tekken 6 a lot within the Tekken 8 trailer. So that was kind of cool. I would say one thing I really did enjoy was like, Max, you brought up like we don't want to see the same combos over and over again. Law, they gave him nunchucks. He looks like he might have a different complete move list. Maybe he doesn't have. I feel like he has to have the kick moves at least, like the dragon kicks,
flip kick.
A lot of his punch moves seems to be from nunchucks.
So and the same thing they applied to Nina as well, where she actually uses guns to shoot you. I'm
just
cool with
Deonte.
that. Yeah, she's just I'm cool with characters essentially having filler flourishes. Where it's the same thing as doing, you know, you're not going to be able to pull out guns and just bang, 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 like at any given point. They seem to be like mid-combo flourishes or like launchers or stuff like that, which makes a lot of sense to me. And at that point, you're adding things to Tekken 8 that look different than Tekken 7, that look different than previous games. It's not like characters with weapons haven't been in Tekken already. I play fucking Noctis, bro. Like the series has already had this shit. You know, the Negan exists. Yoshimitsu. Yeah. Like it's not weird.
If anything, the rest of the Tekken competitors should be like, this is horse shit. Why does he get to use a club, a baseball bat, a sword? And it's like, now Nina's like, I can just use guns, right? And whoever's hosting this tournament is like, yeah, why not? Yeah. Like, you know, it's been long enough.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at like all the old trailers and anytime you see Nina and Anna, they're shooting at each other.
Yes. It's like rocket launchers.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like finally they get to use guns in the match.
Anna does hit you with a rocket launcher in her critical art, or sorry, her rage art, whatever the hell it's called. Art, So that is it's there, but I feel like if we just saw those things happen in other like intermittent moments that aren't only in supers, I think that's a good idea. I hope King just brings out a steel chair and beats the shit out of you or something like that.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So King for sure. Like Tekken definitely follows a lot of WWE, what they do and stuff like that. I mean, they just added RKO, like before they had the Stone Cold Stunner, the Rock Bottom, and now the new special command grab now is the RKO, and that's what they showed off the trailer, and that was super hype.
That was the running armor move, right?
So he starts off the running armor, but the grab is like kind of like an advanced Stone Cold Stunner. So that's like it pretty much is an advanced Stone Cold Stunner, right? Yeah. So I love the RKO. It's one of those surprise attacks. So I really hope they make it as like a quick grab for King, like it's like a surprise quick grab. That would be pretty cool.
Does King have Kenny Omega's One Winged Angel? I'd like to think it's in there somewhere.
King got some like Japanese wrestling thing.
Oh, Okada. I think Okada.
And so did Lars in Tekken 7. They got like unique costumes specific to Japanese wrestling, and they got supers that change their shit, I think.
Oh man, I hope they do that again.
I have a crazy, wild. Considering the time frame of release, like Harada has said multiple times that Tekken 8 is most likely going to follow the same promises and production path that their most successful Tekken has done, which is 7. So we're getting like story mode. We're getting a lot of the things that we would expect the next game to have, if not more. Tekken Ball, like obviously.
Tekken Fall Guys, maybe?
The ultimate, lobby games. The biggest question on everybody's mind is like, okay, so who's the guest character, right? So what character is going to be technically ingrained into Tekken's story or something like that, or who's going to be the headliner guest? Because that was absolutely something that contributed to the success of Tekken 7. Was how many they had some of the best guest characters I think fighting games have had.
Putting Akuma front and center in the story mode was, I think we mentioned this before, how that was like a big deal.
Huge deal.
He's not just a guest character. He's interwoven in the story.
Yeah.
Is he like, could he be out of the story and it'll be fine as well? Yeah, you could have replaced him with a couple of others, but man, would they do Street Fighter again, you think? They have a good relationship.
From what I understand, they do. And I do think that would be a possibility.
Maybe SNK.
I would like to think that just maybe no, because Akuma already has been a blight on Tekken 7 in a large variety of ways. I mean, I think he's cool. I mean,
he's cool for sure.
But it's funny now, like Tekken 8, everyone's Akuma. Like the mechanically and like meter wise and what they're doing, like they're just giving everybody Akuma like abilities. It feels like, or Geese abilities with his max mode cancel shit.
Yeah.
So
that's like Harada saying the catch line for this game is Smash Brothers had everyone is here. Ours is everyone is Akuma.
Everyone is Akuma.
Everyone will flock to
That's what you wanted, right?
It's kind of hard to think which character can
exactly
top Akuma, because Geese was already really cool and so sick in Tekken 8, Tekken 7, and he was already, like at one point, like he was the meta of the game too. He was pretty much Akuma in Tekken 7, but
and Geese is still like top 4 from what I understand. Like he's insanely good. I'm trying to think on what level of like impact, right? Do you introduce a character into Tekken that has that like Link, some crazy thing like that?
Akuma's so good. That's really hard.
He was, and it feels like a difficult draw. I could tell you who it is. I mean, if you want me to tell you who it is, I can just tell you.
Who is it?
I could tell you.
What's your character?
I can tell you that as soon as they put this character in, like it'll front page everywhere, everything. As soon as they announce that Tifa is in Tekken. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Like, for sure Tifa, but it's like, I don't think she'll be part of the story.
Probably
I think
not.
She's like a guest character.
Probably not.
She ain't gonna fall through a portal or some shit like Geralt and Soul Calibur.
Yeah. If anything, maybe Mortal Kombat could be the closest.
I would love that shit.
Mortal Kombat would be so hype.
I would love
like
that
shit. Like a Scorpion,
shit.
Right? Like a Scorpion comes out, or a Sub-Zero, one of the popular characters that's just part of the story. Maybe it makes Shao Kahn actually like a Tekken character.
We've been saying for the longest time how incredibly fucking cool it would be if you got like an NRS character to show up in one of these like Japanese big production fighting games, like an Arc Sys game or something.
Because it hasn't happened yet, not even once. Not like a. There's been American or like Western crossovers a little bit, like here and there, but not like Geralt is kind of one. But
Geralt's like the
in
biggest
terms
one.
But yeah, no, Shao Kahn is a good pick because like Akuma, evil, essentially. Geese, very evil, more evil. Like who is on a comparable evil level? Shao Kahn. You couldn't really do Bison. I don't think they would go for a Street Fighter character that's not in the mix right now. It doesn't seem like Bison is. So Shao Kahn would be sick. Like I think Scorpion would fit pretty well just because he's another powerful demonic sort of high power level sort of character that you can kind of throw in there. But man,
a lot of people were saying fighting EX layer characters because I'm like
that's not going to pull in the numbers. I don't think.
I think you're severely over complimenting the draw of Skullomania, bro. As much as we love them, like those games are legacy fighting games for like any of us that played, the PlayStation era of, Street Fighter titles. Like that shit's amazing to us. Doctor and Dark and all these characters. This is why fighting EX layer is incredible. The funny thing about that is at the beginning of the presentation, it was almost a throwaway footnote until you think about it. They announced that Arika is working on Tekken 7 and Tekken 8.
Yep.
And it isn't like people thought, oh, so that means they're going to stick in these characters. I'm like, if you look at what they say, they really talk about specific like programming and developmental stuff that they're helping them out. And then even goes into detail, specifically highlighting online connectivity and input delay reduction. The big comparable note is that Arika has worked in the same engine, the Unreal Engine, right? Unreal Engine 4, even though Tekken 8 is also potentially the next Unreal Engine. They have successfully, in their Unreal Engine game, ported it to Switch and also implemented rollback netcode that apparently is pretty good on the Switch version.
Oh, okay.
So in almost the craziest of constraints possible, they made a very functioning online version of a game that only had delay-based netcode before and ran pretty butt online from somebody that played it when it came out. So that's interesting as hell to me. To me, that's like, oh, it sounds like Harada was friends with, these ancient fighting game heads because they're all cut from the same cloth. They probably drank together, all this stuff. And they're just like, so you did that, huh? Could you do that to our game? And maybe. And so that's
like all of these fighting game deals. Like we know Harada's bar, but these happen in literal bars.
I have to tell people this all the time.
100%.
Yeah,
they're relaxing 100%. At the end of the day, and they're just like, work on Tekken 8 for me now. And they're like, yeah, sure. We're not doing anything. So
it's crazy how in the Japanese game industry and business, how many deals go down between people meeting up after work at a bar. And it's like executives and higher level employees, like producers and stuff, that are just like, hey, so you're doing this? Hey, I'm doing that. Well, cool. Maybe we could do something together. And all of a sudden, Kingdom Hearts exists or some shit, like some wild crossover combination. To me, that's really, that's actually probably one of the most exciting things outside of learning that all my characters are in heat, is the fact that, man, there's a possibility that between now and Tekken 8's release, which is going to be a good chunk of time, maybe even a year, that Tekken 7 might actually get, proper functioning predictionary, like not delay based in any way, potential like actual rollback netcode. To maybe to the chagrin of, Harada about, their rollback frames and whatnot. I'm just saying they might get a proper beta installment of what they're going to be putting into Tekken 8 and then just make Tekken 7 work great forever, right? So that will now always be there, which would be awesome.
If they're planning another full year of Tekken 7, that absolutely makes sense, right?
Yep.
If we're going to be supporting this for another year, let us make this last big change. That makes way more sense now when you say it like that, because if people are going to groan that they're going to have to wait another year, might as well lessen those groans with rollback, huh?
And you hear a lot of concerns of like, oh, so they're going to add more characters, and I'm like, dude, Lydia came out. She was the last character. She came out in early 2021. It has been 2 full years since there's been a new character, and they've only made like battle adjustments and balance changes, and they added new tic tacs with like the wall bounce stuff that was added after Evo. So they were testing some things for Tekken 8, essentially.
I could see them putting one more final special character, but not like a whole season or anything.
They're gonna put in Skullomania. That's in the contract of Arika working on Tekken 7, Tekken 8.
Another 2D character.
Yeah, Skullomania is coming to Tekken.
Breaking news, Manscaped is now selling beer products. That's right, they've gone from waist to face to help you replace the bulky razor with a brand new Beard Hedger Pro kit. This thing, I just got it in the mail. I have to use it yet, but we've talked about it last time on the podcast, but it's just this simple dial that makes all your little plastic attachments obsolete. It is going to save me so much time whenever I shave in the shower, but I'm looking kind of scraggly. Max and his razor sharp beard, always at a 10. How is this going to change your life drastically, sir?
I'm stealing waist to face, by the way. I just had a scenario where finally we got our beard trimmers in from Manscaped, and we were going to Disneyland, and I was like, I don't want to deal with all this crap on my face, and I did not want to have to also deal with like, oh god, I haven't cleared out my other like beard trimmers that I've had before. I don't want to deal with this. I just threw the whole box in there, and it was wonderful. Like having fresh blades, having all that stuff, it was absolutely fantastic, and it gave me exactly what I needed at a time of great dire need.
So you can finally tame your mane by going to manscaped.com and using our code TKO for 20% off plus free shipping. They also have the beard shampoo and conditioner, which I'm going to use tonight. They smell amazing, but next time on, I'll let you guys know, if you haven't used yours already, how my experience went. I expect good things because every Manscaped product I have has been, pretty up there in quality. So to get 20% off and free shipping with our code TKO at manscaped.com, that's 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com, and use that code TKO. The Manscaped Beard Hedger Pro Kit is the premier solution to face grooming.
I just like to shave my balls.
Either in Tekken 7 or Tekken 8, I could actually see an Arika character eventually make it into the roster, but not as the storyline game seller.
The famous Arika character Terry Bogard.
I was gonna say, here's Terry Bogard from Fighting EX Slayer from SNK.
I want Terry in
Smash Brothers.
From Smash Brothers. You know what? In terms of an actual marquee character to put in there, to me, the only thing that's not been done that would get headlines again, because to me, Akuma and Geese, to a slightly lesser extent, were headline grabbing things. I really think it can only be a Mortal Kombat character if they want that same big thing to happen, to grab headlines. Because anybody, if it's another Ryu, so.
No,
it's not.
And it's funny, as much as people think don't like Noctis very much in Tekken because he's a disruptor, he's practically a Soul Calibur character and stuff. He did a lot of good for the game, right? So Final Fantasy 15 was a weird game to many, but it sold very well, right? And it had a lot of cultural awareness at the time. And when that character was added, Tekken was doing pretty damn good when it was getting all these crazy ass guest characters,
Even Negan was relevant at the time. I think he had only been introduced in The Walking Dead a year, two before.
I didn't know who the hell he was. I was like, who?
I knew who he was, but that was the last time I watched Walking Dead. But I thought he was pretty cool. But I'm pretty sure, like Max said, a lot of people that if you never watch Walking Dead, you just don't know who he is whatsoever.
And I don't think it brought Walking Dead fans to become Tekken fans, did it?
No,
do you think casual people that watched that was like, I'm taking up Tekken now?
That
that's
definitely,
where Negan be.
That crossover definitely came across as like, oh yeah, I met this guy at a bar and he runs The Walking Dead in Japan. He's down for putting one of our characters in with the likeness and everything. You're like, oh, okay.
It's like, here's Jack Bauer from 24.
It's
finally,
like that, right?
Tekken 8.
Jack Bauer doing his Shinku Hadouken, like whatever.
Doing his 10 string.
I would say it does make perfect sense for an NRS character to make it. Just because, if you think about, vice versa, Tekken characters can also be in an NRS game as a guest character.
Marvel character.
Like a Marvel character. Like Kazuya could do some sick fatalities, right? He has the Kano eye pretty much, so he can kind of just do eye lasers and burn you into a
I'm going to tell you immediately where this falls apart. It isn't Kazuya fatalitizing Sonya or Jax or anything like that. It's them fatalitizing Kazuya where the problem is. Where you don't want to see the inside of Kazuya's head.
Yeah, plus I don't know, like, you know, Japanese game creators, we know that like in Japan, like you can't show certain things like decapitations and stuff.
Not going to allow their characters to go through that.
Yeah.
The brand is not in line with that.
Yeah. Well, there might be some censorship issues where like that they could do. Like, didn't they do something in MK versus DC?
No, they didn't.
They didn't do anything successfully in that game.
I thought like the Joker, because there was two different type of fatality. Joker, where he shot you, but then they said no, we can't actually show the gun hitting the character.
This is true.
This is true.
This is true. But Max and I just don't want to talk about it.
We don't want to. Nothing about that game is worth highlighting. That is good, except the fact that it was like the first game to do the NRS story mode. You know, that's the only good thing.
Yeah, to actually give a little bit of context, Justin, it's like, yeah, you're totally right. They had one version where it was more violent, and they're like, no, we have to move the camera and whatever. And then, as like a cheeky little, they just gave Shang Tsung a fatality where he turns into a clown and shoots you, and it's incredibly violent. Like it's they very much said we have to go extra hard. Make sure there's a tongue flapping.
Yeah,
you know, like
flopping around. I think if you want to get like the actual creativity when it comes to those things, like the best stuff is when you're limited and you have to like use limited tools to express your ideas. My favorite one still to this day is Sub-Zero's win pose in Injustice 2. That's the best one.
Which was we talked about this. It's like from the person's head who's getting decapitated.
From their perspective. Yeah. And then it's like lifting up that you hear the blood, but you don't see anything. I'm like, that is so sick. Yeah. That you can get away with that stuff, but that's the thing is that you wouldn't if it's a Mortal Kombat game, there's an expectation from fans about the gore factor and everything. You would assume that, you know, if there's a guest character, they have to be absolutely fucking mutilatable in some way.
You know, some ESRB guy was watching that, being presented that, and he's real pissed. He's like, but, and then Ed Boon's like, yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? And he's like, but there's violence somewhere.
There's violence everywhere.
You Boon.
You know? Yeah, I believe a crossover would happen just because, I mean, I love when I see pictures among kind of like Ed Boon and Harada. They took that, I think, the Game Awards end of 2022, and I'm like, nah, I need to see it. I need to see Shao Kahn.
Because that's the thing. It's like they do have history of like at least knowing each other. The only reason I mention like a Final Fantasy VII crossover is because Harada Bandai Namco has worked several times with Square Enix on different projects, and there's been crossovers in the past, so it's like, oh, they know people over there. You have to start thinking of that, like, have they worked together before on things? Is there still relationships to be had in that scenario? And to me, now that we know when Tekken 8 is coming out, I'm like, oh, that's like right around the time frame of FF7 Remake Part 2. Like, interesting. So things just seem to be like lining up in some ways that most likely is not going to happen. We're going to get, you know, Roger 2.0 or something as a guest character.
A Mokujin coming back, you know.
A Mugus guy.
I want Unknown. Bring back Unknown with her wolf stand. Like, that's what I personally want.
Well, we have June now.
You might get,
true.
something similar.
That should be her heat mode V-trigger bullshit.
Mm.
Oh, she turns into like Unknown, like she gets like an install super.
Exactly.
So we mentioned her earlier. What do we all think about Nina overall? Like, you know, it's hard to. That's why the gun thing and a new look is great, because when we have to slowly announce all these characters, when they announce a character that has been in every single one, sometimes it's hard to get excited. Nina Williams. Oh, no shit, really?
I said this right before she was announced. I'm like, oh, we're going to get just Yoshimitsu or something.
Yeah, the smart things that they did, they absolutely did, because you got hype, like, okay, we're just using guns. Yeah. Okay, like, and her design is like, whatever, it's Tekken, you can get a million other designs, or like we're slapping silly shit on them, we can customize them or whatever. Yeah. Wedding dress thing, what is with the wedding dress? Why is it a running theme on Nina? Was she about to get married and she's like, I'm leaving you at the altar because I gotta go Tekken?
It's like the Kill Bill scene, you know, when Kill Bill. It's
mostly a
Uma Thurman's
reference.
about to get married.
It's
So
the
there's
same
no storyline for it.
It's the same
Yeah,
way
maybe.
where you get like Street Fighter 6, which is just reintroducing existing characters that have been around for 35 fucking years, man. Like, how do we make like DJ or Blanca interesting now? And the idea from their perspective is to literally reinvent the whole wheel. So, you know, they're doing things completely different in ways that are completely different than ever before. And they're doing, you know, more things than they ever had the ability to do. So it's fascinating. You are seeing the same good old character looking different, doing new things. And that's what's important. The problem with like Tekken 7 was that the only new thing that you're really seeing a lot of characters do is their rage arts. So that's it. So you really there needs to be some variety. And I kind of agree with them showing new characters like Jack has this big meteor thing, grinder thing that comes down or whatever, and Nina's got guns, and they're showing some stuff that makes the OG cast look different. Because it's Tekken, dude. Like, these characters and their bones have been around since Tekken 5. And you can't just reintroduce, right, like this guy or girl, and they're just the same thing again, but different looking.
The problem, though, is that if a character doesn't have some pre-existing, just going by the trend of what we've seen so far, if a character doesn't have a pre-existing relationship with something else, either in their job description or their martial arts style, like Nina having guns, she's an assassin. Okay, that makes sense. You know, martial law being a martial arts master, he has nunchucks. Okay. If a character hasn't had anything before, I'm kind of worried when they introduce them and be like, well, no, this is just Harang. That's it. That's all.
Exactly. Harang with a different outfit that looks worse than the previous games.
Because Jin, what does Jin have that's new when he does heat stuff?
He's got this like devil wing that shows up. There's some,
he got wings.
There's
now.
some visual difference, right? So there's something, but no, for the most part, when he was doing combos, I'm like, oh, there's the Jin combo. That was from the first trailer. It was like Lars was the same way, man. I'm like, nothing is really looking different other than heat mode shit. He's just doing Lars combos.
Because Lars isn't going to pull out a chainsaw at some point.
He's got to do something, man. Like, to me, every character needs to do something unique and different in the same way we've seen like Jack has had it a little bit, and Nina, and at least Law to a degree with nunchucks and stuff. There doesn't need to be weapons, but something visually different needs to be taking place.
Yeah, even Paul's pretty much the standard same. He's like a truck.
Yeah,
That's
right?
true.
Literally
That's
just-
true.
It's like a truck.
He just has a
all his
worse
moves are the
costume.
same.
He should summon aliens that help him. The aliens that he met at the end of like Tekken 5.
That's true.
You goddamn aliens.
Never let me design a fighting game, by the way.
It's going to end up being Final Fight Revenge.
The way you're describing that is like, oh yeah, it's like Gold Lewis. You're trying to make Paul into like Gold Lewis because he has aliens in his little like coffin thing, right? But I noticed from Nina, like one thing that was really cool is that kind of that she always had before, besides like adding guns, is kind of like she has these command grabs that break your bones.
Yeah, the chain grabs.
And the chain grab. So now with this Tekken 8 version, they kind of like really like show that a lot more in terms of like maybe like doing a little flicker on the screen where like kind of like you see kind of like the bone break.
Yeah, there needs to be stuff like that. They're like, just do more unique things per character, and they have described that in previous like interview attempts where they're like, yeah, we want heat mode to really bring out the unique elements per character, because there is some criticism about Tekken 7 just in general, that they do get a little bit homogenized with like how everything works. Right here, to this, into your screw attack, and then you do this and this and this, and your ender. Like, every character sort of functions in a similar way, and then the best characters just do those things very well. So I could see, from the very little we've seen so far, I hope they just 110% that shit. Just spend all this time over the next year just giving all of the old school roster weird shit.
Yeah, like Kuma and Panda take out fish.
Beat you with the fish, dude.
There's a fish mechanic.
Literally shit in your mouth.
I mean, they fart.
Not Panda, too pure. But Kuma.
Yeah, no, Panda, how dare you?
But a Kuma will shit in your mouth.
Yeah.
What if Kuma like took his hand and then grabbed the fart and just threw it at you
exactly?
like a fireball?
Yeah,
Kuma
why
will
not?
do that.
Yeah. I think that would be pretty cool.
Akuma or Akuma?
Akuma.
Bear.
I want Akuma to shit in your mouth, Matthew.
But like we're making jokes, but it's like they really need to, if they need another year to suss all this out, let's look at our roster. What can we do new? How much new can you do with Bayek?
Bake?
Turn him into another character, you know?
Turn him into another character.
I mean, he's already really old, right? So at this point, he gotta look like Wang. Like that's the clothes.
Yeah, and I feel like there's just some characters in Tekken that have not really stood the test of time in general, like Bayek and Wang and stuff. Like some of them, like I don't know. I guess you're gonna really piss off about 6 people if they don't show up again.
I mean, they took Julia, and now she's a streamer. You know,
but before she was a wrestler, you know.
Well,
JC.
What was her name? JC.
Yeah.
JC.
Yeah. For more right now it is King. We've seen snippets of King's gameplay, but do we know what he's doing aside from new wrestling throws? Or
to be honest, his costume looked kind of the same.
Yeah, he looks very traditional.
It looks very same.
The big thing that it seemed to me visually was different was the fact that he seemingly had a lot of armored kind of attacks. So at least that is visually sort of different, you know, that he's like running forward, progressive movement with armor. I want to pull out a chair, bro. Something like that.
Yeah, you said that, and I was like, well, why doesn't he take out a mic and do a promo? But that, like Armika. But then I was like,
he doesn't
just
talk,
growls.
Right? Jaguar growl. Throws to the ground.
And everyone's reacting like, oh shit, did you hear what he said?
I'm fucking dead.
That was below the belt. Yeah, and like if you throw Armor King in there, maybe he has like some type of like our actual armor mechanic or something. Like he can just tank a bunch of hits. Like there's a lot you can do, but it also makes me feel like this probably going to be a smaller roster. Like starting off the bat, like
in the beginning, I think
it's going to be like 20 or something. That's just my thought.
Tekken 7, when it first came out, the real vanilla arcade version had a pretty small roster. I think it was like less than 24 characters.
Less than
and even though they are remaking the models, like people say this looks the same, like you're being a little disingenuous. Like sure, some lighting is a little pre-baked right now and doesn't look super great, but no, you look at these character models and then you actually look at a character model in Tekken 7 and it's some Xbox 360 looking shit, dude. It's just like higher resolution. Like it's crazy how the models in Tekken 7 are really old.
And when they do the camera pans and camera movements and the new Rage arts, like that graphically is showing things off, like Law's muscles straining, and when he does that downwards like stomp on you, I was like, holy shit, that looks good. But I think you said this before, Max. It's like this is definitely going to be a game you need to see running in front of you,
most likely,
like on your own TV screen, because when it gets to such a graphical fidelity, it kind of gets lost in YouTube videos a little bit.
The only reason I say that, the same exact thing applies to Street Fighter 6. Where Street Fighter 6 doesn't look that much better when you're watching like a 1080p compressed video at like a 2500 kilobit stream. You're like, this is the same as previous games. Doesn't look that good. And then you actually look at it on a real TV running at 4K or something, and it's, oh wow, this is significantly better. Holy shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think another issue that I hope that gets kind of resolved is kind of maybe like besides the difference between the gameplay is kind of like, what do you think about how to play, like tutorial modes and everything? You think they'll be adding kind of more of that type of stuff because there's so much more stuff to look out for?
Damn, yeah.
Like, there's a lot of heat terms, right? Like I said, it's a lot of heat terms.
I'll say it again, and because it seems to be harder, right? And then me just describing it seems like, yeah, just do that. Why the hell is that not a part of the story mode? Why the hell isn't there a moment where Jin is fighting Kazuya and he digs deep and gets in heat to fight his dad? Like, what? Why? I mean, real here. Why the hell do we not learn the game's mechanics in its own goddamn story mode and utilize them as such and then perform them when we are required to do so? Like,
That's why Mortal Kombat Deception is the greatest fighting game ever made.
He said it again, and he's not wrong.
Does exactly that. But yeah, it's like, it's such an easy way to get casual people on board to learn the mechanics. So they're like, oh, I don't want to go into a training mode and dig through all that, but I want to play the story mode. And if you at least do the basics of the new systems, it's such a baked in way to get people on board. And they're like, okay, yeah, it's not that hard, especially if the difficulty of the starting off in the story mode is like nice and balanced and not like a rough ride.
For sure.
It's just such an easy way to guide people into the experience. But maybe they might do it, hopefully.
To me, if they really wanted to like actually do things that are beneficial for their players and getting them better, because Tekken's a game where it's like, I don't know what I got hit by, man. Like immediately after you lose a match or something, like, hey, you want to find out how you lost that shit? Check this out. And it loads up, like if it is rollback and it's deterministic, it'll have replay functionality. Just load up a replay to the port you got hit and like, let's see what hit you. Dink, 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 dink. This is how you block it. And then it makes you do it.
And then you add the Tekken commentators to tell you about it during that.
Something, you know?
Right.
Like actually put Tekken's a game where you're put into weird scenarios that you don't understand why or where you got hit all the goddamn time. It's not a game where it's like, oh, this was just minus on block, I just have to not do that, right? Or not press this. Like, no, there's so many permutations per moment of sidestepping, like backstepping, forward, back, Z-axis, X-axis. Is this going to move to here? Is there a reason that never Tekken's the perfect game of like, let's put you in that scenario again, reload the replay, and let's play it out now and see if you can fix it. So that, that's what I did wrong. I won't let that happen again.
Yeah. I think what would be really cool is because when you look at Street Fighter 6, they have so many different type of mini games. Like you have the pizza slice, and they want you to cut like this type of way, and it's pretty much teach you how to do fireballs and tattoos and stuff like that. It would be cool if Tekken kind of had a similar way of like a mini game where you have to do true electrics, right? Like 5 times in a row, or do just frame moves, stuff like that. Kind of maybe, like teach you execution stuff.
I can see the achievement collection for getting 5 electrics in a row. 0.0001% of all players have done this.
Yeah, but I feel like
something like that.
Yeah, something like that would be pretty good, because Tekken's known to have lots of just frame situations. And like you need to have proper kind of execution to like pull out these moves. So trying to get people to like learn about it might be pretty good.
It's funny. When I was playing a lot of Tekken 7 and trying to like relearn it, everyone's asking me like, I really want to pick up this game. Like, who do I play? I said, not any character that looks like Jin or Heihachi or Kazuya. Do not play any of them. No Mishimas. Like, they are the expert level characters of the game, and they look like they're newcomers.
Do not play the marquee characters that are in every like promo and trailer and image. Not those.
Do not. Like they have now over time essentially become the Akira Yuki of Tekken, where it's like the premier character is actually the most technical, difficult character in the game.
I just tell people just play Paul. If you want
play Paul or
easy
Law.
character in the beginning, just pick Paul and Death Fist people. You see lots of huge damage. Combos are easy. That's why I think even the Tekken 8 kind of they showcase Paul, because it's like people understand like he's a simple character.
They do. And then they make him look awful, which was a weird decision. Like, let's just make Paul not look cool anymore. Let's go.
He went to the homeless route with Ken, so he's on the run. That's gonna be the story.
Yeah.
When they first showed him, I was like, no, he looks fine. But in the latest showcase, and I was really looking at him, like, yeah, it's one of those things where he looks stupider the more you look at him.
Exactly. You're like, he looks fine. You're being picky, you stupid bitches. And then you like just glare a little bit more. Nah, maybe you have something there. I don't know.
But they did state that, no, you can get his old hair back. You can change. I mean, I don't know if they've showed his other costume.
Really?
Did they?
Like the tall hair?
Yeah, they practically side confirmed that you'll customize stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
which is fine.
If there was already a question, will Tekken have customizables? Harada has said in several interviews the bane of his existence in the Tekken series is customizable characters. Like, he absolutely hates how popular it is and that everyone loves it because it's hard as shit to do.
It's the best thing in the world, because that's the only reason why I spent so much money playing Tekken 5 in the arcade. Right, because you get the card system, and I want to make my character look cool.
Bandai Namco dug themselves deep in Soul Calibur 3, and ever since then, you can't get rid of it, man. Every single game is going to have this shit. You have to just deal with it.
I mean, because if you're going to do radical redesigns, there's going to be people that are like, not really a huge fan, or there's just one element of a character I want to change, and that's all you need. Like, yeah, then customizable parts is definitely a thing. When you mentioned Paul and Law and how they're kind of like not a couple, but like
they're best friends. You know, they're best
a couple.
friends.
They're a duo. And I was just thinking about their endings. You know what I really want? It's like, this is so specific, but I want old Tekken endings. So it's this gorgeous, like, looking game. You defeat the last boss, and then it shows a 4x3 grainy FMV, like, CGI animated thing that's so silly. It has nothing to do with what's happening in the game at all. Like, I want that type of throwback, or, like, I don't know, alternative endings that are really quick clips and stuff. Because what happens when you it's been a while. What happens when you beat just regular arcade mode with a character in Tekken 7?
Tekken 7's got a scuffed arcade mode like Street Fighter 5 did, where it's like one or two fights and that's it, and then you get a quick cutscene.
It's like in game.
Yes, yeah, that's where like the Crazy Eddie, Lucky Chloe thing is.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's where that shows up. But yeah, that's the problem with it, is that it's a scuffed arcade mode for some reason. Like, if you want to play the story per character, it's literally like one or two fights and it's over. You're like,
why? Just make 10 fights. It's
exactly. Just give us a ladder. I don't know. I don't know.
It takes too long. Casual people will stop playing. No, they won't. 10 people want 10 fights, not more than 10. More than 10 is too much. Then you're going to like the supreme ladder in Mortal Kombat games where it's like 25 fights. No thanks. Yeah, it's such a weird choice.
I think because they just want more people to play story mode.
Maybe.
That, or they want you to play online. You know, there's like a forcing you online type of situation, which is where, you know, don't force people online. Just let them fall in love with the game and they'll play online if they want.
Maybe Erika is helping with the Devil Within 2 mode.
Oh, good. Yeah,
maybe.
Oh, good.
I want Devil Within 2.
8-player co-op.
8-player co-op.
I would unironically like some type of return to Tekken Force. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be a long mode, like 2 hours or something. Yeah. That'd just be cool to see just in this engine, to see what would be possible if you can like walk around like a little map and like just beat some dudes up. But I think that mode, like that style, is like kind of like Street Fighter's doing something like that, but I just kind of don't see. Harada's already annoyed enough, apparently. He doesn't want to put customizable things in it anymore, so maybe he's gonna be like,
and it's gonna happen. Like, we're gonna get customizable characters. There's no way they're essentially going to back themselves out of that situation. Everyone expects it now. Yeah,
it's like pretty hard to kind of not put in customizable, especially with how popular it is, and it's kind of like it's a meme for everything. Like, look how cool, look how stupid, and it gets a lot of engagements. And that's kind of, and it's also, think of it as like a gacha system and also a grind system where like you're playing not like really World of Warcraft, but you're playing a fighting game version of it because you want to collect the loot.
Yeah, that's true.
So outside of Tekken 8, there was a couple of things that also dropped and have been announced, and some sad things and some also good things. The good thing is that Samurai Showdown has had its first patch of a rollback netcode beta test. The unfortunate thing is that it's very early, and because Code Mystics is a small team that is the ones that are retrofitting the game with rollback netcode, the big challenge of getting rollback to work in a fighting game is that it requires a lot of playtesting. You have to search for these things called desyncs, and they are a case-by-case scenario. There's no way to predict when they're going to happen, how they're going to happen, where the game state is just going to flicker between each player, and suddenly something's going to be off. And right now, you're not going to find any high-level competition rolling around the beta 1 of Samurai Showdown rollback test, because they are pretty much letting people play it out and they're looking for things to fix. So this is not the official release.
It's been funny looking at some of these clips on Twitter, because when I look at the clip, I gotta rewatch it again because I don't know what happened, right? Because it's like a lot of times I'm like, okay, Charlotte has a full life versus the other person. I'm guessing the other person makes a huge comeback. Charlotte wins, but she dies. And I'm like, wait, what happened? I was like, oh, it's because of the, like it's early stage of rollback. Yep. So for some reason, characters that are supposed to win are actually losing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the meme at
literal
D6
right now. Each player on each side is actually seeing different things, and when it syncs up again, it like, oh, KO. You actually lost. Like this was a big issue in Street Fighter Cross Tekken launch, where it would be KO and you're still fighting. You're like, oh shit! The music stopped. There's no sound effects. You're like, oh shit! So yeah, and the only reason why, like, what does this happen to all rollback games? Code Mystics is not a huge developer, and the only way to nip this shit in the butt is to playtest the hell out of it, right? Yeah. To really just let it go. And it looks like they're essentially utilizing, like through the choice of SNK and them, utilizing the audience to be like, hey, just play it for us, right? It'll auto detect the desyncs. It's going to send it to us automatically. You don't have to worry. Just play the game. Is what it seems like. And if anything weird or extraneous happens, let us know on the forum. So,
Code Mystics have like other projects going on at the same time. Like they're the ones that just put out the GoldenEye remaster. Yeah. They're still doing stuff for Arcade 1-Up.
Seem to be pretty busy.
As despite them being so small. So
yeah, they love doing stuff like that, where they get a lot of the fans and the players to pretty much be their testers, right? To kind of like find all that stuff for them.
So it's smart because it's a realistic environment, So.
Yeah. So that's happening right now. That's not gonna. It's gonna be a while till we get like the official rollback release for Samurai Showdown.
Yeah, but the good thing about the Samurai Showdown rollback release is that obviously it's gonna come out sooner or later, where it's like gonna be fixed. Less desyncs will happen. And the best part about it, it's on sale by a lot. Like you can just pay $20 for everything. $20 and includes all the DLC.
All of it. Damn, that's
all the DLC
for the PC version specifically, right?
Yeah, for the Steam version, and then even King of Fighters 15, that is also 75% off right now.
Oh, it's like $15. Is that what that was? Jesus.
Yeah, so I hope that's kind of crazy as well, too.
I hope that sale is still going on by the time this podcast comes out, because holy shit, if you haven't bought KOF 15 for $14.99, what the hell is going on?
Does that include the DLC, or is it like
probably
just
not
the base game? No,
I think that's just the base game, but the DLCs are also 75% off as well.
Jeez. So those cost like $1.
Yeah, either way, it's a great sale, and like they're already going to add crossplay, which would possibly help their matchmaking issues, I'm hoping. And they're constantly updating the game, and Kim's going to be playable next month at Evo Japan, so that's going to be exciting.
I thought I saw Garo was like listed amongst like part of a sale. Like there's a general SNK sale going on in I think the Garo on Steam, I think.
Yeah, that's the
one.
Might
be a SNK, a whole SNK sale thing going on.
That's the one that has rollback netcode as well.
The Steam one, yeah. I've never tested it though.
I think the last big news that is unfortunate, but I think is worth talking about, is the Street Fighter 6 news, and is the fact that Capcom Cup is right around the corner. 1 year ago, practically, we first got teased Street Fighter 6, horrible logo and all.
What do you mean?
Perfect logo.
The perfect logo and all was practically at the birth of the TripleKO podcast as well, and one of the first things we were really talking about. And Capcom actually came out and let us know officially that it's not going to be a Capcom Cup this year,
which is
crazy.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely the right call to do,
and also with the right call. Yeah.
Companies do this very, very occasionally, and it's always like the initial wave of, oh, that's disappointing, but it's like, what would have been way more disappointing,
waiting, and then they cut to credits.
Anything, yeah.
And that's like you have to think of like from why this takes a lot of gall to do it this way, because if you don't tell your audience what happens, way more people are watching, expecting and hoping something to be there. And then you essentially let them all down, but you got them. Right? We got you, bitches. You watched. Thanks for all the viewership. Yep. Thanks for the sponsorship money. See you later. By coming out ahead of time, they're pretty much just straight up acknowledging the fact that we're going to lose a big ass chunk of viewership. Like, I immediately was like, what am I doing that night? Thinking about like, do I have to stream that now? Like, I think I do. I think we're still going to still check it out. But at the same time, it's like, that was 100% like from the beginning of this year, one of the most important nights of all of this was the night that Street Fighter 6 was most likely going to get an announcement.
I think we even a few episodes ago, like I was like, oh, what's going on between now and the launch of the game of SF6? And both of you were like, Capcom Cup. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, obviously that's where you're going to drop Cammy and the rest, right?
Cammy, Keith, and Lily, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they're just going to do it randomly at some point between now and E3. Just here you go. Here's another big blowout or something, because that's a lot of characters. That's the same. Wait, that's 3, right?
Yeah,
that's I think that's the
final
last
3.
The final 3.
So that was like the last big drop too. That had JP and Mana and Marissa,
and that was at
Blanca and Dawson,
the Game Awards. So the beginning of December is when that was, and then the previous announcement before that was in September for Tokyo Game Show. So there's about like 3-month chunks in between every single one. And actually before that was also, E3 when there was the big reveal, right? So if we put 3 months in between, and it makes sense. It would have been around the beginning of February. So I guess it's just going to be a little bit longer of a wait.
March and April, late March, early April, I'd probably say that you should bring back Captivate. Unveil it.
Let's do it.
Capcom should spend another $1 billion hosting a Captivate event.
But don't forget that, because I think Capcom doesn't want their viewers to just kind of like wait for Street Fighter 6 news. Capcom Cup is 8 days long. It starts this
that
Sunday,
shit is wild.
And it ends Sunday. So it's going to be 8 days worth of Street Fighter 5. So I guess maybe, we might lose all these Street Fighter 6 audience if it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But maybe the numbers all make up, because it's going to be 8 days worth of Capcom Cup, possibly. Who knows?
I'll be tuning in to the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, that for sure. But we do have some type of Street Fighter 6 news. I think it's happening. Is it this weekend? The JPO Expo with the Street Fighter 6 arcade mode.
Arcade.
That is
it's an exhibition mode.
That is
with Dogura and Kazunoka.
That is a good. I think that was going to be streamed too, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be streamed, and I think it's this weekend.
Yeah, maybe
because I was like, why is Dogura not going to? He's like because he talked about how he's not going to be playing the LCQ, but he's going to be at Capcom Cup, and I realized, because he's doing this exhibition, and then he has to fly because LCQ's on Sunday, so technically he would be doing the exhibition around Saturday or Sunday. So I believe that's going to be our first time ever seeing arcade version of Street Fighter 6, right?
And technically the PlayStation 4 version of the game.
Yeah.
That's a thing that supposedly exists.
It is happening, and that type arcade version of Street Fighter 6 is an upgrade path from the Street Fighter 5 cabinet, right? Because they made a deal with arcade operators for Street Fighter 6 that you can turn your Street Fighter 5 cabinet into an SF6 cabinet for a limited rate, and it is essential, like a base PS4 hardware is what it is. So if we're curious, right, and hopefully the stream quality will be good, you can see the visual difference. You can see the game running in 480p if you want. I don't think it'll be that bad, but most likely be like
cell phone quality.
It might be like 900p with lower quality assets and stuff like that. It'll likely be just a slightly less crispy version of what we've already seen.
God, that so reminds me of looking at really low quality videos of Battle Fantasia on YouTube, like circa 2007 or something, just being like, what? It's a fighting game, but it's 3D. I don't understand. It's 2D. What is it? Oh my God, Battle Fantasia. This is going to be a massive franchise. Didn't quite work out that way. So.
That's how I remember it.
I remember playing it day one at the play-in trade stores.
Did you convince them to like stock it, and then they lost a shitload of money on it?
No. They I did convince them to run a tournament though.